Hello, mine bibliotechers. You are joined once again by your host, well, one of your hosts, Joseph Rutland, that is I, or your other host, which is my good friend Michael over here, and my good friend Aidan.
Hi guys, how you doing? Thank you for having me on.
It's no problem, Aidan. We love having you on. You're a great guy. Everyone, Aidan's a lovely person.
Stop.
He's just a great guy. He's just lovely. Anyway, Aidan, I have a question for you for this week's episode.
If me, yourself, Michael, and, I don't know, Jude, were all Angry Birds from the hit 2009 mobile game of the same name, who would be who?
Oh boy, I think I remember some of the names, but I think Joseph...
You just have to talk about the colours.
Oh, the colours, okay. Joseph, you definitely be the yellow one who's really fast. And, like, you press the screen and he, like, flings...
The triangle-shaped one, yeah.
The triangle-shaped one, yeah. I'd say Jude is the really big one. Like, the really big red one whose power is he's just
the fat red one.
Oh,
yeah, he is a vast
Not
boy.
saying Jude's fat, just, it's
maximum
all I can think of, really.
Yeah.
Michael would be the toucan, the green toucan. I think his name's Hal.
For myself, so...
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Great
I think
minds,
you're on something.
Great minds. And me, I guess... I think there's an orange one who, like, he turns into a really, like, big bubble or something like
inflates.
that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be that. I don't really know. Honestly,
I
kind
kind of had you down as the white one that laid the egg.
Should I ask why?
I don't know, you kind of give maternal vibes.
Oh God.
I
think we'll leave it at that.
You seem like you would lay eggs in a sort of semi-suicidal manner.
Oh, thanks, man. One of my redeeming qualities.
Anyway, without further ado, I've got a 50p coin here, and let's say, it's actually quite nice. It's got 1066, the Battle of Hastings on the back, so I guess it's collectible or something. Heads for Spirited Away, tails for the other one, Ghost in the Shell.
I'll call heads then.
It's tails.
Oh man.
That's Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, nice.
Now, I have watched 3 adaptations of this in research. I've watched the original one, the Scarlett Johansson one,
and the recent Netflix one. I just want to take a second to say about the Netflix one. It has some awful 3D animation. I mean, some of the worst I've seen in anime. I mean, the best 3D animation I've seen is Ganzo, which is flawless. But there's a certain line that redeems it that just kind of caught me out of nowhere when it came to the Ghost in the Shell Netflix adaptation. And it is the line, switch your cyber brains to autistic mode.
What?
Translation?
No, it's not a translation error. I looked on the wiki and apparently this was in the original manga. And autistic mode is when the cyber brains go fully shut down their networking function so they can't connect to other cyber brains.
So it doesn't mean acoustic mode?
It does not mean acoustic mode. Autistic mode is a proper thing in the Ghost in the Shell canon.
I mean, the two things that jump to mind is that, one, I wasn't even aware there was another adaptation of it, aside from the series, which is a few years old.
Oh, there's another one where Major becomes a lolly as well.
I feel like that says more about you than it does about the source material. But no, the second one is that, to my knowledge, the actual manga, the film the actual manga is quite different from its most famous adaptation, which is what we're talking about.
Oh, really? It's not a direct manga to anime kind of thing?
Not directly. It is the same broadly. The characters are the same, the broad scope of the plot is the same, but the manga is it's not ongoing anymore, but is a series that focuses on multiple arcs and antagonists aside from the Puppet Master, and I believe it's quite tonally different as well.
It's a lot more light-hearted and fun.
So essentially the film's focusing on mainly the first arc of the manga.
I don't know if it's the first one, but the film is more serious, more philosophical, and cuts away a lot of the chaff just to focus on one plot line with the characters.
It's like almost
do it well.
too existential. It's quite a heavy film, isn't it?
It's one of those films that's able to just ride the line perfectly, where it can be very philosophical, but it never gets egregious.
Yeah, like it doesn't get pretentious. Yeah. It leaves just enough to the imagination.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect balance to strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Scarlett Johansson one, that went full on with the philosophy, but none of it was particularly good philosophy. It was all just kind of shit.
I've only seen the Scarlett Johansson one, sadly, and the one we're talking about today, which is obviously vastly superior.
I still am yet to watch the Scarlett Johansson one,
and hopefully it shall remain that way for you, Michael.
Yeah, everything I've heard about it just seems to indicate there really isn't anything of value to be taken from it.
It's just kind of a bootleg Blade Runner 2049. Honestly.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Unlike the original Ghost in the Shell, which was making an adaptation of a manga, this is an adaptation of an adaptation.
No, I'd say this is
not a well-adapted one either.
I'd say this is more of a Hollywood Mr. Krabs kind of thing. I like money! You know, that kind of thing.
It sounds like one of those projects where somebody's thought, oh, that's a name with good brand recognition. Let's make a movie of that. And it's had about a dozen different.
Like these days.
Yeah, it's had about a dozen different producers meddling in it and trying to mess with the sort of creative vision to the point where the result is almost doomed to fail because of its production.
I wonder if it was the kind of thing where it was like Michael Bay films or Star Wars films where they have 12 different writers who all sort of have different strokes for what they want the story to be. So it ends up as kind of a Frankenstein's monster of just wasted potential.
Probably.
Like there's some really striking imagery.
I would say, from what I have seen, visually it's not actually very faithful to the original.
No, it just goes with Blade Runner and just riffs the whole aesthetic.
I mean, obviously
the original Ghost in the Shell
couldn't include the nipples on the
which was a shame.
I mean,
truly a tragic loss.
Sorry, Scarlett Johansson fans,
She's got no nipples.
It doesn't matter though, because Scarlett Johansson can play whoever she wants, apparently.
Yeah, true.
Oh, that was a whole fiasco at the time as well. The sort of accusations of whitewashing, which I mean probably aren't entirely baseless.
It's kind of ironic.
They made it worse in the actual film because Major was an Asian girl who got her brain transplanted into Scarlett Johansson's body.
It actually is like they didn't just stick their foot in it by casting a white actor for a character who is, I'd say, fairly clearly supposed to be Asian. They go one step further and do that.
I'd say, God! Like the one time
it is the worst move they could have done.
Hollywood tried to take a risk. It's quite ironic that the one time they try and take a risk with sort of a kind of a niche franchise and renovate it, instead of going really safe, really diluted and watered down, it ends up being an absolute failure. It's quite disappointing.
I've just I just checked, and looking at the remake's production, it had been in the works since about 2009. 2008 even.
And
so this is...
When did this release?
That's when Angry Birds came out.
It was in the works in 2008. The movie actually started production in 2016. So I think this is one of those ones where the project has been passed around a load of different writers and producers and directors. They've tried to find somebody to actually make it. It's kind of like the Flash movie that's been supposed to be coming out for the last 5 years or so. It's just spending the whole time in development hell.
PC film production. We did not.
I saw a thing that was recently, and it was somebody had dredged up the DC EU release slate from like 2015, and the amount of movies which are supposed to come out and just haven't materialized whatsoever is kind of depressing.
Oh yeah.
What kind of stuff was on it?
The Flash movie is the most famous example because that's literally had about 6 different directors now. Whatever, by the sounds of it, the project is a mess because all the people who get involved end up getting either quitting or getting fired.
And I assume they're not using that same Flash actor from Justice League because of the whole fiasco.
I don't think they could use Isaac Bridger anymore because he punched a woman or something, didn't he?
I think he strangled her.
No, he did. He I remember because I saw the video of that when I think we all did.
She asked for an autograph or something, and he jokingly strangled her and then actually strangled her. And like it's quite awful. Just like threw her down on the floor or something. Like
the video is. I think it was basically this sort of mildly annoying fan kept pestering for an autograph, and he basically straight up like choke slams her. It's really sort of like. It's understandable to be annoyed, but it's a complete overreaction on his part.
It's just kind of a yikes.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that's helped the movie's production at all.
No.
I mean, the person that I feel sorry for recently that's had a similar treatment being completely dropped. Have you heard what happened to the Darth Maul actor?
No.
Oh, Ray Park.
Yeah. Did you hear what happened with him?
I did not.
No.
Basically, you know how on iPhones and stuff you can get like a short little movie of pictures and videos from around a time, makes like a little compilation. Well, his phone automatically made one from when he was around doing the Phantom Menace, and he thought, oh, this will be a cool thing to show the fans. So he uploaded it to Instagram and everyone saw it, but he didn't check it first, and it seems that whilst he was recording the Phantom Menace he got his dick sucked.
Wow, that went from like 0 to 100 like immediately.
I mean, to be fair, this guy played fucking Darth Maul. Of course, he's getting his dick sucked.
But yeah, Disney dropped him like a lead weight. Like, poor guy. I mean, he's a thingy actor,
Do you reckon, like,
stunt person,
do you reckon,
so he can get like work anyway.
As he was about
But he's not allowed to play Darth Maul anymore.
As he was about to arrive, so to speak, he screamed, "Kenobi!"
I mean, the guy, he's only ever played Maul physically. He doesn't even voice him. I don't think he even voices him in the first movie.
He does voice him.
No, not in the first movie. He doesn't voice him in any of them, actually. He's a stunt actor and martial artist.
I was going to say,
Maul is...
No, he voiced him
in the film itself. He doesn't say many lines. It's only in the...
No, he doesn't. I'm going to double check this. Well, bear in mind, in the Clone Wars, he's voiced by Sam Witwer, who's a really good voice actor. But I will double check this. I'm fairly sure even in the actual Phantom Menace, Maul's lines were dubbed and re-recorded by somebody else.
Oh.
Well, they brought him back in for Solo, didn't they?
To do the physical, yeah, for Solo they had him playing more physically, and again, Sam Witwer dubbing the voice. They also used him for Clone Wars Season 7.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they got him to do the mocap for the lightsaber duel at the finale.
Right.
Yeah, here we go.
Anyway.
Last point on this, he was voiced by Peter Serafinovich in the Phantom Menace.
Okay.
But we have strayed way off topic.
Let's stop talking about Darth Maul's penis and start talking about Ghost in the Shell.
So yeah, back to Ghost in the Shell, and I was going to say the actual version of Ghost in the Shell we're supposed to be talking about instead of the bad remake.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of the absolute amazing soundtrack?
I love the soundtrack.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Thank you, Michael.
I can't remember much about the soundtrack. Like,
you heathen.
Hey, listen, I'm the music guy, and I'm sure I appreciated it while I was watching the film. It just wasn't really that memorable to me. It didn't really have any kind of leitmotifs that really stuck. I mean, I'm sure the music itself, the kind of like quiet ambience, really helped in those really like silent moments. But
well, it was like really weird vocal stuff, and it was beautiful. It was like, whoa, that's so weird.
Oh, okay. You mean the main vocal theme? I remember that. Cause,
where it's like,
remember,
or whatever.
Like the second time it played, I kind of got a tiny bit annoyed, and I know that's really not the point, but it kind of gets a bit straining after a while.
Yeah.
I really like the soundtrack. I think it's really well done.
No, the soundtrack itself is great. I'm just saying, like, I can't remember much about it. It's not really. It's great.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's great, but it isn't memorable.
No, I do.
I looked it up on Spotify, and it wasn't there.
It's hard to track down actually. I think there's a video it's on YouTube, but it's not on Spotify. It isn't memorable. I think that's never quite what it's trying to do. A lot of it is more ambient. I'm trying to check if I recall correctly. The choral track is actually a Yeah, here we go. The opening theme, the core music is a Japanese wedding song, a traditional one.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Which also kind of has, I think, deliberate symbolic meaning considering how the movie ends.
Yeah. I felt that this movie should either have been... I think this movie should have been longer, really.
I mean, actually, I'd kind of say it's perfect the way it is, because, to be honest, when it reached the ending, I was kind of like, yeah, this is this is a pretty good place to stop.
It was as long as it needed to be.
I would absolutely agree with that.
It's only an hour and 20 minutes, but even then it is still slow and contemplative, and I think if it was any longer, it would start to feel like it was overstaying its welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was sorry a second, I don't know, again, check up on this. Sorry, go on, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just looking to try and find what I could find. I found some of the gore was particularly beautiful.
Oh yeah, the gore's great.
Sort of, yeah, a lot of it is techno gore as well.
I kind of knew immediately what I was in for, like with the first kill where he literally gets ripped in half. I was like, it's going to be one of these, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That opening scene in general is really well done with
it really shows off the powers of Major.
Yeah, that's what it's for. But yeah, it sets the tone in all the right ways. Though I do love the actual opening sequence with the cyborg shell being constructed.
Yeah,
that's great. Like the Genesis was just awesome to watch.
Here as well, they actually they were so dedicated to the realism, because they actually got, I think if you notice, the credits do actually list a weapons consultant, and they put loads of time into making sure all of the firearms were as accurate as possible.
I was actually in awe at how accurate the SMG fired.
The detail of the weapons and the way the bullets react to the environment and
just
spark
the
on metal
recoil,
and stuff.
It was awesom.
The
fact that they're high velocity bullets.
Personally.
I mean, I had my eyes glued on the gun the whole time just because it was so just great to watch. But you could see his wrist kind of shake around as the gun fired, and I think that's just awesome to see. Not many films would take the time to actually do that.
I think exactly, it's the fact they really, and I think this is one of the things where the relatively short length is an advantage, is that you can tell they really honed in on those kind of details in the environment and like I said, the weapons and costuming and stuff. I think like I said, the city environment is, I believe, quite heavily based on Hong Kong.
Okay.
And it certainly looks like it, but again, the amount of detail into the background and the characters and the focus that's actually given to the urban environment, to the point where
the slums, I know it's quite ironic, but they really did feel alive, despite the fact they were so grungy. And I definitely got the Hong Kong vibe, because the characters on the signs were, I did notice, in Chinese, not Japanese.
I think a lot of them are Cantonese, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which I think is also why, even though the remake's visuals are impressive, they do lose that, because from what I've seen, they don't really have that grungy, used technology kind of aesthetic.
They're far more polished. I found out from my research the kind of why everything looks like that, all flooded and stuff. Previously, there was a nuclear war, and also at the same time, America is currently in a civil war in Ghost in a Shell, not real life.
Okay.
If you're listening to this in the next 5 years, just to clarify that.
If we predicted something by accident there, we apologize.
Sorry, guys. But yeah, and around the Mexican border and stuff, everything's just blown to hell. Also, the stock market got absolutely destroyed by Wall Street crash times 10 in the Ghost in the Shell universe. So everything's just fucked, basically.
Interesting, actually, that interesting that you're talking about the background material, because I noticed the film is very sparing on sort of lore and information. It only really tells you what you need to know for the story, and the rest is left.
I really appreciated the fact that they kind of introduced the political conflict in a way that they didn't have to explain who everyone was. It was really a show, don't tell kind of thing. They let you figure out who the puppet master is, rather than telling you, this is the puppet master, he is bad, we are going to shoot him.
Yeah, I do love it that they do that. They like I said, they show don't tell. They don't, especially with science fiction and futuristic science fiction, the opportunity to just info dump exposition through dialogue onto the audience is, often really overbearing. A lot of stuff they let the audience figure it out for themselves instead of just talking down, explaining everything. Especially because that kind of thing runs into that terrible kind of dialogue writing where you'll have somebody go to a character, as you know, and then proceed to explain stuff purely for the audience's convenience, rather than actually in a way that makes sense in the story.
I hate that. Like, I really love Show Don't Tell. I mean, there are a few films where, like, Fateful Findings, where they do Show Don't Tell, and that's just strange.
Thanks, Neil.
A work of sheer brilliance.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think it worked very well with this. Like, you without, like, going into the backstory, which the whole Johansson film was about, you're able to, like, get a proper feel for it.
Did you guys have any major gripes with the film?
Major gripes with the film? I liked the animation style, so I felt... it felt like a prequel to something, if that makes sense. Like, it feels like this is the beginning of the story, and it's slightly frustrating that we don't get to see what happens afterwards.
Oh, okay, I totally understand what you mean with the ending.
Yeah.
I kind of... There is a sequel to this, and I still haven't watched it. Yeah,
is it any good?
I believe it is... I don't know whether it is as good as this, but I believe it is still quite good.
I kind of don't want to watch it.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I have never watched it myself, and I don't really want to because I love the ambiguity of the ending. And like I say, it's all those philosophical questions about, sort of self-identity and what actually distinguishes human and artificial life. And then by the end, we've got something entirely different, which is almost a fusion of the two, or whatever that may be. I mean, the symbolism of the Major Puppet Master combination being given the body of a child is obviously, I think, pretty apparent.
It's pretty obvious.
I did like as well the touch of the sort of derelict museum where the tank fight happens, having the human species
the evolutionary tree
all up along one wall.
Like the taxonomy, like,
and then it gets shot up.
Yeah, that tank fight sequence in general is great.
Just like screw evolution, man. That's what they're saying.
Or more evolution. Ooh, transhumanism.
Because they're the next stage of evolution, it's destroying the natural order of evolution that's not using synthetic.
It's definitely, transhumanism is a big part of cyberpunk, and this is pure cyberpunk in every sense.
Yeah, that's great.
And I love this stuff. And that question of like drawing the boundaries between artificial life and human life, because the Puppet Master sort of emerged, wasn't created, but emerged organically out of artificial constructs, but considers itself to be a distinct living being. But then you've got something like the Major, who is apparently, she's human, but her body is entirely cybernetic. By the sounds of it, most of her brain is as well. So when there's almost no, actual physical human material left, is that still human?
She's human ?
Yeah,
she's got a cyber brain.
I mean,
she's got a shell, I think, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think that's her shell that you see being made in the intro sequence. Entire body is artificial. Though I also like the whole. I was going to say I like the whole thing of the fact that the nature of her profession means that if she were to ever acquit, the government would requisition her shell.
Right.
Literally her entire body belongs to her employers as their legal property, which again...
I really admired how, like, sort of corporate everything was in the way it's addressed.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because it didn't go for the slightly tired and stereotypical corporations rule the world trope that you often see in Cyberpunk. It's quite clear that it's a more realistic case of governments are still very much around, but influential corporate entities are also very powerful.
And I think it's quite funny how literally the one corporation they name is called Megatech. So it's just
on the nose.
It's very on the nose.
Megatech Body, I think the name is. But also, of course, the whole sort of very shady secret government department of questionable ethics kind of thing is possibly a bit too believable.
I mean, I kind of love the counter-terrorism angle. Like they didn't go for like the usual police force kind of aspect.
Yeah,
we really did see a lot more kind of espionage and like investigation.
They aren't cyber cops. They're completely
spies.
Separate.
Yeah.
I want to say as well, just while I'm thinking, if you haven't already guessed, I do really, really, really like this movie. Probably one of my favourite films. But the bit that always gets me rewatching it is the Bin Man with the artificial memories.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
That's really tough.
Yeah.
They did that again in the Johansson film, but they made it less impactful.
Yeah, the Johansson film, like it basically give him like no screen time, and it's just and your memories are fake. But here he spends like a good few minutes just focusing on this guy with his rather sad story about trying to get out of his divorce, and who's seems to be basically a bit of a emotionally vulnerable, gullible sort of person who's being exploited. And then it turns out that he has no wife and he has no daughter, and years worth of memories which he's emotionally invested in never happened. And by the sounds of it, he's probably never going to be able to forget any of those either. Like,
I know, it's super depressing.
It's one of the best examples just I've seen in fiction in general of reinforcing like how distressing it would actually be to discover that memories you thought were real were artificial. Which is also something Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 does kind of play around with. I think this movie and both the Blade Runners do have some thematic intersections.
Oh, well, I did notice, like, during one of the chases, the car is almost directly, like, not a comparison, but I'm trying to think of the word. It's almost the exact same, like, staple car featured in the Blade Runner franchise. Like, especially from the headlights, you can really tell.
It does look quite similar, actually, doesn't it?
I feel like that's kind of like a staple of the cyberpunk genre in general, isn't it?
Yeah, the sort of vaguely 80s inspired vehicle design.
It's the one you always see in vaporwave thumbnails.
Yeah, exactly.
Vaporwave.
Of course, in terms of influence and inspirations, it's no surprise to know that this was, I believe, quite a big influence on The Matrix.
Oh yeah, that's very easy to see.
Definitely. Like, especially with the fight choreography, like, I honestly, the one gripe I mainly have with the film is it didn't really, for me, get better in terms of action than the first original fight where she turns invisible and fights the thug on the river.
That sequence is just so well done in every sense.
It's literally flawless.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the sort of calm, peaceful environment and fighting an invisible sort of assailant. So if you notice, you can actually see her shadow in the water.
Oh, I really appreciate like the silhouettes because like you've always got a vague idea of where she is, but you never know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, there was a lot of attention to detail with that kind of stuff as well. Brilliant.
It's just that I found I noticed these rewatching it stuff I missed first time round, and it's things like during the tank fight when it pauses in sort of those moments of silence. And it like close up and you can actually see like water dripping off the barrel of the tank's guns, and it's just those little touches that work so well. Again, the technology aesthetic is all great. I particularly like the cyborg snipers.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah, and then the helicopter.
Yeah, they're plugged into the helicopters too. That was really good.
Yeah. I think this is definitely a film that is best enjoyed when you're rewatching it. Because, I mean, the first time I watched it was... We were at a sleepover at Jude's house, and it was like 3 a.m, and then half asleep brain having to watch this, like, heavy philosophy film, just like, what the fuck is going on?
I'm sort of still unsure as like what rating to give it, because it is like actually my first viewing.
I've watched it like 4 or 5 times by now.
I mean,
I'm biased.
Yeah,
it's one of my It is one of my favorite movies.
It kind of reminded me of Cowboy Bebop, to be honest, in some areas.
I was waiting for someone to mention that. Like, if you compare the animation of Cowboy Bebop to Ghost in the Shell, it's almost It's I think they might have even been the same company, but it really is that sort of 80s, not 80s, but 90s Japanese animation style that we don't really get anymore.
No, I really like Cowboy Bebop.
It's timeless.
Yeah. Although I think Cowboy Bebop definitely has the superior soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think, isn't the
Without
main
shadow
theme
of
called,
doubt.
like, Tank or something? Like, the...
It is, and it's great.
Like that.
Great. And all those, like, twanging guitars. Oh, brilliant. I thought you'd absolutely love this film, Aidan.
I'll have you know, I know the bass line to Tank.
Oh.
Because of course I do.
You are the bassist.
Can't call
From
myself
heaven.
surprised.
Yeah, but going on from what you said, Joseph, I liked this film a lot. I don't love it. I have concerns, but you know, it's a pretty good film all in all, and I'd definitely say it is absolutely worth watching for like anyone.
I double checked that this was made by the same animation studio as Cowboy Bebop.
Of course
Nice.
it was.
Bandai Visual.
Oh, they've done a
Bandai
few
Visual.
things recently.
Oh yeah, they seem to have done a lot of stuff, but they actually also went defunct 2 years ago.
Oh.
So, but yeah, no,
Sucks.
there's a long list of all the stuff they did the space battleship Yamato. There's all sorts of stuff they've done.
Yeah. I thought you'd love this because you're all Adeptus Mechanicus, and this is all about the machine spirit and stuff, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
Aidan's going to dig this.
Michael's definitely more of a Cyberpunk guy than me, despite the fact I actually have a Cyberpunk 2077 shirt, and I'm still waiting on that game after 6 months of delays. But
It'll happen eventually.
it will happen eventually. But yeah, I mean, I like it a lot, personally. I mean, at the end of the day, I will always kind of be like a more traditional guy. I kind of like more mythical settings as opposed to futuristic dystopia, but you know, in small doses, it's definitely is one of my favorite genres to sort of delve into.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I am a big Cyberpunk fan, and I would say this is like one of the most important Cyberpunk films there
It's
are.
definitely near the apex.
I mean, in terms of Japanese like anime sort of cyberpunk, I would say the only thing that was more influential than this was Akira.
Oh,
I've not seen
absolutely.
Akira yet.
I still haven't watched.
You guys
and I
haven't
need
seen
to.
Akira?
Nope.
What about Alita Battle Angel?
Okay, at least you know what? Don't rag on Alita Battle Angel. It's pretty good, you know.
It is kind of funny as a meme though. But
No, but
go
like,
on. What were you gonna say?
if you guys ever have me on again, I'll gladly like show you guys Akira. Akira is, I would absolutely say Akira is actually the apex of Japanese cyberpunk. It's a must watch for anyone who's really interested
I've
in
been
that
meaning
genre.
to watch it for years, but
I mean,
don't get around to
the
it.
motorbike itself, it's iconic.
I mean, yeah, that's been referenced and cameoed in God knows how many things.
I mean, of course. But
I mean,
yeah,
can you blame it? It's an awesome design. Like,
yeah, God,
Yeah.
I want it.
I've got like in the future, I've got like two other, obviously Japanese because the American adaptations are always shite, but like two other adaptations of manga into film that are actually really good. So look forward to them.
not going to be seeing any Netflix Death Note movies, then, are we?
Oh boy.
Maybe on a future crap week, but
Ooh,
I know
yeah,
what I'm
that's
doing
nice.
for my next crap week.
I mean, hey, if you need like a guy to assess Japanese stuff, I'm probably one of the guys you should call first. I mean, it's not my proudest moment, but you know, I get the job done.
Aidan, you're a man of culture. You know your way around a
I have watched JoJo.
JoJo's good.
I get the JoJo reference.
I've watched these mangas you kids talk about and read those animes.
Haha, Kono Dioda. I get it.
Oh no, you see, it's funny, guys, though, because he made a reference to JoJo. Like, that's funny, right? Please,
Is that a
please
JoJo
laugh.
reference?
Oh, but at the end of the day, guys, it is really funny to watch like half-naked, muscular men like pose on pillars.
I can't tell if you're being ironic.
It's really funny.
It is really funny.
Okay, I think it's about time we moved on now.
Oh yeah, please,
Yeah.
anything to take me away from this subject.
I found the politics in this quite interesting because, of course, going back to the setting of it, where America's just had in the Netflix series, America's still in the Civil War, and you'll notice that in the film, the old government of America has just overthrown it, so it's just after one of the sides has won the Civil War.
Well, it's a different country, isn't it? They talk about they call it the Gavel Republic, which is left ambiguous as to what or where that is. But
I think it's supposed to be like America.
Yeah, it's not clear. It's America has referenced the AI engineer who's with the foreign ministry, who has the cool like splitting cybernetic fingers. instead to be an American. But I think because the actual setting, like the actual city itself, where that is left ambiguous. It could be Japan or possibly another country in East Asia. It's not really clear.
It's just confusing with the Scarlett Johansson version because everyone's Asian, but everything's in English. But and Scarlett Johansson got their has fake memories of her parents trying to escape to that country on a boat when she thought she was Scarlett Johansson. And
don't they make that? Doesn't the remake really focused on her trying to recover her backstory and memories?
That's the whole thing. And instead of the puppet master, they have a previous version. They tried to make Major with some other dude who was because they had a bunch of runaways and they just harvested the brains. Basically, they were making Cybermen.
Because the most sort of confusing but sort of endearing theme that the general public will get away with, at least Hollywood says, is amnesia. So obviously they couldn't explore more philosophical or existential themes. They just had to go with the general sort of I've lost my memory, let's get it back kind of thing. And I feel like that's way too simplistic to give warrant to what Ghost in the Shell actually represents.
Yeah, and not only that, but at the end, the person that she's met actually says to Major in the Scarlett Johansson version, hey, do you want to combine consciousnesses to create a new consciousness? And she just says no. And it's
yeah.
So you're trying to adapt the 90s film, but you're doing the opposite of what that character would do.
You're literally going to make the character make the complete opposite of the key choice and culmination of her character arc. Brilliant writing.
No, I'm fine with being a robot with no life, no memories. I'll just be.
Don't worry about me. I'm just going to continue searching for my personal identity and agonizing over my potential humanity, and will just forever be plagued by the possibilities of what I could have done or been if I had made this decision and created literally a new form of life.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Hollywood. Thanks, Obama.
But it's okay because we might get a sequel. Oh wait, we won't because it's shit.
Actually, I'm gonna check.
How much did it actually?
No, I was actually gonna say 170 million worldwide. Production budget of 110 million. So.
Wow. That's actually, you know what? That's actually not much compared to really. Then again, I suppose it wasn't really a AAA film. It was more of a AA.
I mean, Blade Runner 2049 had twice that budget and was an actual.
Well, see
flop,
that was actually AAA.
Yeah, bear in mind though, factoring in for marketing costs, that would barely have broken even, if not lost some money. So there's no way they'll try and make another one for a while.
No,
I mean honestly, I'll be honest with you. I don't really know what Hollywood was thinking because you can't really make that much money from a franchise where the main character is literally a naked woman, essentially.
Previous human experience has shown that possibly the opposite is often the case.
Oh.
No, there's no way that Hollywood could have faithfully and properly adapted the movie without making it a high rating and thereby inaccessible to a lot of the sort of general audience.
Well,
they want to make these things PG-13 a lot of the time because it will make more money. But
it's that kind of thing where how do you translate animation to real life? You just don't.
Now I think about it, with American film rating standards, the degree of nudity in the animated version would probably get it an NC-17 rating. At which point it may as well be it's not considered commercially viable at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's adapting animation to live action is incredibly difficult, even at the best of times, and is usually not a good idea. So why
sometimes
do it?
It works though.
Why do
especially like this, where does it make much business sense to pour loads and loads of money into a name that, whilst is well renowned amongst those who know it, only really, I would say the original film only really has cult status in the broader pop culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
The majority of audiences might recognise the name. They probably haven't watched it. They probably actually don't know that much about it. So it's not necessarily going to be a draw to them. So business-wise, it's a weird decision.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Ruby the other day and he was he said that he only knew there was a Scarlett Johansson version. He didn't know about the original anime version, which is abominable, really.
That's just depressing. We really do live in a society.
Yes, we do.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I knew about the Ghost in the Shell franchise, but I never really took that much interest in it. I never knew why. Never understood why. It was the kind of Alita Battle Angel thing where I kind of looked at it from just a general consumer's perspective, and since I'm not really a biggest fan of like cyberpunk stuff, like I like it. I'm not really efficient in understanding and appreciating all of it, but I feel like Ghost in the Shell is really a film made for the fans of that specific genre.
If they were making that, I was gonna say they're making that for fans of the original. They really dropped the ball there.
Oh yeah, I suppose you're right.
Like that's the thing. It's a bizarre decision because on the one hand, you're adapting something from a name that doesn't really have that much recognition, which would indicate that you're doing this for the fans of that franchise, but you're also drastically changing it, so you're going to leave the fans unsatisfied. You're not going to attract that many of the general audience, so you're basically like, there's no gain from those decisions. You've just shot yourself in the foot.
It's like the Netflix Death Note adaptation, or the Dragon Ball Evolution, or Avatar, or all those things.
Thanks, M. Night.
Even the Japanese Attack on Titan did that. They
After
just completely
all of
fucked everything up.
You would really think that the people in Hollywood would learn the lesson about adapting animated films.
I agree.
And they just haven't.
Nope.
Well, they keep doing it with Disney. I mean, Disney has no creativity anymore. It's either remaking...
Disney will keep doing it as long as it makes money.
I hate Disney so much with a passion. Like, the only thing it does is either remake its old IPs or buy existing IPs and just making films out of that, like Marvel and stuff, and Star Wars.
Joseph,
it has no creativity.
But Joseph, don't you want
new.
to watch Mulan in 4K HDR with your Disney Plus subscription for $13? Is it $7.99 or $13.99? I don't know.
Disney Plus is surprisingly cheap for a streaming service. It's only like $5.99.
That's pretty good. I mean, I'm still not watching Mulan. Screw you.
No,
Disney
why the fuck could I watch Mulan? I mean, not the remake, not the animated like original classic. The thing is though, with Disney, I've found this is that with their stuff, the best material made under their wing is from the occasions where they've invested in a project and then left the people involved to get on with it.
Yes, absolutely. That's why
Pixar
films. That's why Pixar films Soar. They let Pixar get on with it.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same with Disney's investment in Star Wars. Despite like what internet conspiracy theorists and like seem to believe, they have basically no involvement in the production of the movies. They
just
fund Lucasfilm and they leave them to it.
Yeah.
And especially when you read about the behind the scenes stuff, you can tell that Disney are overseeing things, but they don't really get involved at all in the actual creation of the movies, and they just let the people who want to do it
I assume if they did, like, the Stormtroopers would have, like, plastic Mickey Mouse ears or something like that.
I mean, the thing is, a lot of the stuff... The worst thing that Disney could impose on a franchise, i.e. try and make it marketable and open up the toy market, is something that Star Wars already does anyway, so nobody notices the difference.
Hey, listen, all I'm going to say is I would absolutely pay to see Mickey Mouse star in Requiem for a Dream.
Ooh.
I would watch that. I would fucking watch that.
We need to talk about Goofy.
Oh dear. Well, they've gotten rid of the actor who plays Darth Maul, so they could get like Donald Duck or something in to play him. I don't know. General Kenobi. No,
Donald's what? Anyway,
if anybody who can do a Donald Duck impression can hit me up with them screaming Kenobi, that'll be appreciated.
What does Donald Duck sound like?
That was not it. Nah.
Oh my god, that sounds like you choking on your own flag.
I think that's just my Gollum voice trying to come out, you know.
General Kenobi, you come to my planet.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, shall we move on to the second film then?
I believe.
Yes. Oh, first of all, final thoughts and rankings.
shall I?
Your film, Michael.
Yeah, go on, Michael.
Yes, my film. I've basically said everything I wanted to say. It is a classic. It's an incredibly influential piece of cyberpunk. I think if you're interested in that genre, this is a good jumping off point because it is pretty accessible, really. In terms of numbers, I don't know. It's like a strong 9, light 10, probably. I'm biased. It's one of my favourite movies.
It's like 9.5.
Joseph?
Something like that.
What about you, Joseph?
Yeah. Oh, can you do first because I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Sure.
And I'm quite nervous.
Well, as a person who'd never seen, sadly only seen the Scarlett Johansson version before this, I'm absolutely relieved to say that this original Ghost in the Shell is just so much better. And as a person who really doesn't delve into cyberpunk that much, like Michael was saying, it's absolutely an amazing point to start your journey. And despite the fact that it sort of it just kind of throws you into a river and expects you to swim in the way that it doesn't really kind of explain anything, leaves you to your own devices, I'd still say you'll have a really fun time watching it. My rating would probably be an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
And what about you, Joseph?
I'd give it, I don't know, I really enjoyed this, but like, again, it is a film that you have to watch twice to be able to, and preferably on the first time not be watching at 3 a.m, fueled only by Diet Pepsi.
Yeah. Not be extremely tired probably helps.
Yeah, but I don't know, because maybe 9.3.
Wow.
I'm going to give it 9.3.
That's generous.
I'm a very generous man. I'm renowned for my generousness. Anyway, now it is time to go on to our next film, Spirited Away. So,
Woo!
Aidan, it's your film. Do you want to take it away?
Thank you.
I see what you did there.
Well,
Yeah.
well, when I was sort of asked to choose a foreign film, I immediately thought of Japan because I have absolutely no idea of foreign films from anywhere other than Japan, apart from maybe Roma and Parasite. You know, the Oscar winners.
I love Parasite. Well, it's all right.
I mean, really, how could you go wrong with a Studio Ghibli film? I assume most, if not all people watching this right now have seen a Studio Ghibli film in their life, and that first Ghibli film you watch is always like a special experience, and I feel like that's your Ghibli film. So,
oh, yeah.
For Michael, I think that one was My Neighbor Totoro, wasn't it?
It was either My Neighbor Totoro or Castle in the Sky.
Ah, right.
My first one was Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah, my first one was Spirited Away. But my favourite one is Howl's Moving Castle, but I feel like there's sort of a string of nostalgia you can't really cut away from your first Ghibli, so I think that's why I chose Spirited Away. And I think as of now it is still their most popular, like the most popular, most highest grossing Studio Ghibli film.
Probably. I mean, there's like 27 of them, so some of them are a bit forgettable.
Is it 27?
Something
it's
like
somewhere
that, 27,
in the
20s.
Yeah. I think I typed it here somewhere. Yeah.
Personally, I wasn't a big fan of Totoro. I mean, it was alright, but it just kind of not my kind of tone.
Well, it's, different tastes, different people, but Spirited Away I think has the best atmosphere and setting of any of the Ghibli films. Just the sort of magical and absolutely breathtaking bathhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sheer creation gone wild.
Wow.
Like,
just wow.
Every single frame is bursting with.
I was just about to say,
detail.
You could take any frame from this film and like have it as a painting in your room.
And it's not just the frames, like the animation in every sense is basically perfect.
It absolutely is.
It's amazing, and I've certainly in all of the Ghibli I've watched, they're able to do this, but this one especially is how much character they can imbue through the way the characters move and their facial expressions and their mannerisms. And it adds so much depth and dimension to them. It's
Definitely.
amazing.
Like with all the different spirits in the bathhouse, even though they're not named and they have absolutely no main focal point in the story itself, you sort of get exactly what their character is just by looking at them. For example, there's that really fat, white, furry spirit in the lift with Chihiro, and you sort of really understand like how cynical he is just from his eyes.
He doesn't even have a line or anything. He just makes the occasional grunt, but you still get an impression of his character. The way he sort of slowly lumbers along.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
It seems like a kind of neckbeard spirit.
Almost,
sort of.
yeah.
Except they wouldn't go to a bathhouse or a shower.
Or possibly they would, but it would probably end poorly for everybody involved.
Did you guys have like a favourite scene? Any particular scenes? Because I definitely have one.
I have a favourite character.
Oh, what's that then?
My favourite character is the character who I will be from now on referring to as Spider Robotnik.
Oh, what's his name again? His name begins with a K, isn't it?
Kamaji, I think it is.
Kamaji, that's right.
Yeah.
He's great with all the arms all over the place.
He does look like Robotnik.
I mean, he's got the mustache, hasn't he?
Yeah, this giant mustache. I was really struck by the sequence with the water spirit who's covered in slime.
That's
that one.
actually
that was
my
good.
favourite scene.
I feel like you could take that out of the movie and it would work just as like its own short film.
It basically is.
Just the whole thing about it. And again, the amount of detail in the characters and their reactions and everything is... It's a great kind of encapsulation of all the stuff that makes the rest of the film enjoyable.
And once again, it's like a really good example of show don't tell. Like you kind of understand that what the river spirit gives Sen is a rejuvenating pellet because you sort of associate rivers with a kind of purity and like cleanliness,
water cleansing life and all that.
Yeah,
like the Ganges.
Like the Ganges.
How clean the Ganges is these days.
Yeah, well, historically it's been the river of like spirituality and cleanness. Now it's just where people throw their rubbish, quite unfortunately.
Which rivers usually are. And on that point though, Chihiro or Sen or whatever you want to call her, she is...
Well...
She's great.
Well, guys,
she's a very good character.
I did some research on the names, and what they actually mean in Japanese kanji, and the transition from Chihiro to Sen actually does have some meaning. So Chihiro traditionally means 1,000 questions, which really reflects the fact that she's asking, obviously, literally the first half of the film is just her wondering what the hell's going on, as we are, the audience is wondering what the hell's going on, because like in Ghost in the Shell, nothing's explained. It's all kind of left to the environment to answer the questions for you.
You have to figure it out as she does.
Yeah,
it's a good example of soft world building.
It's actually quite funny what happens in the transition with the name when Yubaba the witch takes away Sen's name. Sen is actually a former monetary unit of currency in Japan, which actually is a 1/100th of 1 yen. So, in essence, essentially, the witch makes her worthless in terms of money, which really makes sense in the fact that the witch, obviously, a bit money grubbing, runs.
She does seem to be a bit of
runs a very fine bathhouse establishment.
Bit of a ruthless businesswoman.
Yeah.
That's
get that
really
gold.
Clever though.
It is.
I wouldn't have picked up on that at all because obviously I don't know Japanese.
Well, you got to do some research for that. Yeah.
They do love that kind of sort of clever wordplay with the language though, don't they?
And again, it's like it's rewarding those who seek out repeat viewings and meaning
details
behind what's actually going on. And I think those are the best kind of films.
I have to confess quite shamefully that the only version that I was able to get was the dub, so
that's okay. I mean the dub's good. It's actually good.
It's a good. Do you know what I found? And I noticed and I listened and I was like, hang on, that's not them, is it? It is. Like, the person who plays the foreman frog is the same person who plays Squidward. And he does the same voice. So I was like, is that Squidward? And he plays the same kind of Squidward-y character,
Well, the good thing about Ghibli films is they're actually very professionally dubbed. I mean, I think with Howl's Moving Castle, they actually have Christian Bale and Billy Crystal doing voices.
Yeah, I think Mark Hamill does one of the voices for the Castle in the Sky dub.
And I think there's another one who does the cat in Kiki's Delivery Service that I forget the name, but I think he's a comedian. In fact, actually, I think that's also Billy Crystal.
I mean, the point is they get they don't half-arse the English dubs. Yeah, they do get real voice talent on there.
Yeah.
I think, I watched it on Netflix because all of the Ghibli films are on there now. And
nearly all of them.
Most of them, isn't it? They give you the option to have it in
they give you the main
English or the Japanese. I mean, I need to take the opportunity to watch the other ones now because...
Oh, so I mean, that's the thing. She did Ghibli films like crack. Once you watch one, you really want to have another go at another one.
And they mesh together so well that they're all quite thematically linked. I mean, Studio Ghibli likes using witches a lot because there's like Kiki's Delivery Service, there's the witch in this obviously, and in Howl's Moving Castle there's another witch. So there's things that kind of link the films together, sort of. And also,
I definitely say the film you should watch next is Princess Mononoke. Have you ever heard of that one?
I know by reputation.
Yeah.
Trust me, dude. That will become your favorite because I know you.
You know me.
He knows me.
I know him.
They are masters of the child protagonist as a character.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
And especially, and this is a problem we especially find in live action because obviously child acting is very difficult for children, and good child actors are very difficult to find. But it is hard to write a genuinely good child protagonist who is engaging as a character and likable, but also still a kid. And that's why Chihiro is so great, and I enjoyed watching her so much because she is very likable but still relatable, and it feels like the realistic way that a child would react to all this.
Like I was gonna say, like I can't imagine how difficult it must have been for like the guys doing the Florida project. Because like they actually managed to get a likable bunch of kids that are actually good good actors, I should say.
No, what they usually do for anime and stuff and dubs is they have a like grown woman voicing the child, like they do with Ash Ketchum and Goku.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it a grown? Yeah, I think it usually is, isn't it?
It is usually.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a good enough job, but
one thing that I noticed was there's a game that I played a couple of months ago, and it's possibly one of my favourite. I wouldn't say maybe horror, but like more like stealth, and it's quite scary. It's called Little Nightmares. You should like totally play it. And I noticed.
Okay. I know about Little Nightmares. Go on.
It's really good. A lot of the character designs and like the designs of the scary stuff in that, I think a lot of it might have been based off stuff in Little Nightmares, just looking at the similarities in designs.
Do you mean the stuff in Little Nightmares is based off of Spirited Away?
What did I say?
You said
you got it the wrong way around.
Oh yeah, based on Spirited Away, yeah, because there's the guy with the really long arms and the really short feet, and obviously that's
the fat chef.
Yeah, the fat chef, and there's all the guests at the table just stuffing their faces with all the meat they see, and that's like her parents, obviously. To be honest, because I obviously have a few cynical bones in my body, I got the sneaking feeling that they were going to pull a Titus Andronicus, which they obviously weren't.
In what sense?
I thought the witch was going to serve the girl up her parents like
I reckon
sausages.
I get the impression that's what she was planning to do. Also,
epic prank. I served San her own parents. Like and subscribe.
You have just reminded me of a point. Like I feel like the one major gripe I have with the film is that like the main story itself kind of takes a back seat to the actual environment itself. Like we only really get, because I think the initial story setup was Chihiro's parents get turned into pigs, how do we turn them back? But literally the ending of the film, spoilers by the way, is the witch puts 5 pigs in front of her and says which ones are parents, and then she just says none of them are my parents. But I don't really think that, like, I didn't really understand how she figured that out, in a sense. Like, I know she'd grown from the whole experience of working in the bathhouse, but I felt like that was kind of a bit too far-fetched for my liking, or a tiny bit like too much of a MacGuffin.
I think it's a question of, she'd obviously seen her parents as pigs, and this, probably just through a hunch, I think she was able to tell that there wasn't any of them.
Or just the fact that the witch is like obviously going to try and trick her or something like that.
She's
like,
not
intuition.
What my point about child acting, though, I just looked this up, and it is actually kind of related. The Japanese voice actress who played Chihiro was only about 14 when this was recorded.
And I think isn't Chihiro like 10 or something like that?
Chihiro is 10, I think. Yeah. I also noticed when I was watching this that it's coincidental that we did Pan's Labyrinth last episode, which is also a movie about a little girl being plummeted into a strange, dangerous world of magic and spirit creatures.
Yeah, but with less murderous fathers in this.
I think this version might be a little more uplifting, shall we say, but it just a sort of similarity that amused me, that was all.
Yeah. Oh, and both of them are regarded in reviews and stuff as modern fairy tales, so
that would make sense.
I certainly think that's a good way to describe it, yeah.
At the end of this movie, the note I made was, a beautiful movie because it is. The animation is gorgeous.
I mean, yeah, of course.
I've seen better since, but like it is gorgeous animation. Like some of the best I've seen.
What's an example of like what one better than that? Would you say?
Well, I'm gonna keep that under my hat.
It's not Gantz, is it?
It's not Gantz. Gantz has shit animation. The film has brilliant animation, but the anime has awful animation.
I mean, it depends. Are we talking 2D animation or animation in general? Because I think it would be unfair to compare
like
2D to 3D.
It's unfair. It's unfair to compare Spirited Away to like Into the Spider-Verse in the sense that like they're two totally different art styles.
They're both brilliantly animated movies, but they're brilliantly animated for different reasons.
And of course, art's subjective.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
You can't have an objective opinion, yada yada yada. But you know.
But yeah, go on with what you were going to say, Joseph. What were you going to say? Sorry.
The Gantz anime has shit animation, which I mean,
just to sort of go on the next bit. Should we talk about the music? Because the first thing that hit me when I watched this film and like I knew it was going to be good was like the initial leitmotif of the piano. I was like, oh man, it's going to be one of these, isn't it?
I mean, I loved the music.
My God,
I really enjoyed it during it, but I think the Ghost in the Shell music stuck with me more than the Spirited Away music.
I can see that. I can see that. I mean, once again, films in general are subjective. We all have different opinions. I personally remember the music from Spirited Away much more than Ghost in the Shell, but you know, obviously you have a different opinion, and that's fine.
Yes,
that's quite interesting actually. The English dub of this was actually organised by, it was written and organised by John Lasseter of Pixar.
Oh, really? Okay.
And because him and a lot of the Pixar staff were certainly at the time huge Ghibli fans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Disney were involved in the production anyway. So when they heard that, they knew that he was such a fan of Miyazaki, they got him to deal with organising the English dub. But yeah, no, he's like super important for Pixar. He's like one of the most important people involved in the studio and their animation. Yeah, he's certainly got a pretty impressive cast of people for it. But yeah, I mean,
I think this film did a good job because there's the whole story of the thorn in the lion's paw, where there's the story of the lion with the thorn in his paw, and then the girl comes along and pulls it out of his paw, and then the lion is nice to her and doesn't eat her for it.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about how Sen quite literally... I mean, actually, she does it twice. She pulls the thorn out of the river spirit, and...
So it turns out to be more than a thorn.
Yeah, and she takes the curse off the dragon.
Yeah. I talking about the curse of the dragon reminds me. I adore the little soot sprites carry the pole for.
They look like the things from My Neighbor Totoro.
They do.
I knew they reminded me of something. They're really great though, because they're literally little black squiggles with arms and legs and eyes, but they're still really expressive and funny to watch and characterful despite barely having anything to them and not even dialogue.
Like, it's still a kids' film. There's obviously going to be some childlike wonder in there, and they definitely serve that purpose.
This is like My Neighbor Totoro. This is the true example of a family film.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
You can be any age to enjoy this. Yeah. Child to adult, it does not matter. If you can understand it, literally once you're old enough to read, you can enjoy it. And I think that's great.
Like the only bit that might steer people away is like the blood that Haku spills all over the place. But even then,
I remember watching it thinking like, whoa, okay, that's pretty.
Oh yeah,
I was not expecting that.
I mean, to be fair, Ghibli films can definitely get pretty visceral. Like Princess Mononoke is the biggest example. Like a key aspect of that film is like one of the main characters, a boar chieftain, like is literally corrupted and falling apart, and like you can see the flesh falling off him, and like the wolves have to sort of like tear it off of him, and
To be fair, but with the blood in this, like a child, no matter what their age, they're gonna know what blood is, and they're probably not gonna matter. They're not gonna be like, "Mummy, what's that red stuff?" Because I mean, everyone's probably cut themselves by that age.
Yeah, it's real in the sense that people bleed when they injure themselves.
Yeah,
they're not sugarcoating.
It's not unrealistic where it like explodes literally everywhere, and like wounds just gush out like a fountain. You know, like his mouth's dripping a bit, and like some got on the walls, but like that's actually realistic.
Yeah, it's interesting. The theme section of the Wikipedia article is very, very long here. There's a lot to say about it. I felt I really benefited from watching it myself and going in with pretty much no prior knowledge.
I feel like that's good for any Ghibli film, you know?
I recognised No Face because he's iconic, and I knew it was a Ghibli movie, and that was pretty much it. So I really enjoyed the fact that I was able to be taken by surprise and just enjoy the flow of the story, especially because even though I recognised No Face, I quickly realised that what I'd assumed about the character wasn't exactly accurate.
And like while he is an integral character, he's actually not the main character.
Yeah,
which is
he's not the main character, not the main antagonist either, which I kind of thought he might be.
Yeah, he was like an anti-hero in the sense that like he got corrupted a bit, but redeemed himself.
I think secondary antagonist is more appropriate.
Yeah, a secondary antagonist who did get redeemed once it became clear that he was more just mistaken.
Well, no, he's just lonely.
Genuinely ill-intended.
No, wasn't it the bathhouse corrupted him because the emotions around him influence him?
He was a spirit that wasn't allowed to go in there for some reason.
I thought, well, the impression, you can kind of see why they wouldn't let those guys in when considering how he reacted once he was inside. I got the impression that he seems to sort of reflect his surroundings and like almost, because when he eats the frog guy, he starts talking with his voice, doesn't he? So I think he kind of absorbs his surroundings and the people around him, and they influence him.
I think the main like takeaway from that is that his name is literally No Face. He doesn't really have a voice of his own, so he has to imitate.
Well, he whispers a bit.
Well, he doesn't even whisper. He doesn't even whisper. He just goes like like that.
Yeah, he's trying to speak possibly. But then, of course, by the end, he's found a little place for himself.
Like, he has a role. Like that's all he's been looking for. He's got company.
Something to do
and he's got something
with himself.
To do.
I mean, that's what I love. The sequence just towards the end with him and Chihiro on the train, as they're surrounded by this. They're sort of surrounded by the shadowy adult figures that slowly disappear until it's just
That's
them.
definitely one of the best frames of the film. And like one of the most memorable,
yeah, definitely.
Like easily.
And when she's like, "Come sit next to me," that was just like, oh,
it didn't even say like it was an order, like sit here.
Yeah. It's like it's like for me it's like the equivalent sort of in terms of how iconic it is that shot of the one where it's in the rain with Totoro under the leaf.
Yeah,
and the,
of course.
Girl next to him with the umbrella. I love that so much.
Except with that, the cat bus enrages me. I just don't. It's just so smug. It's like,
oh, come on, have a heart.
The cat bus is just being friendly and helpful. He's just there.
Leave him be.
So I wonder if
he's just trying to spread some joy to this lifeless world that we live in.
I do like the implication of like if cat bus has kids, they're sort of like cat car sized, and then they grow up.
It's great.
But again, I mean, cat bus is he's a great example of one of those immediately iconic sort of designs that is.
Oh yeah, definitely iconic.
So simple yet so recognisable
and effective.
Yeah, it's the same with this as well. All the character designs are great in it, in just even the littlest details, and they all have that element of they're so well done and they're so immediately recognisable that I find myself wondering like, how has nobody thought to do this before?
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't really make sense, they just get that kind of immediate reaction.
It's amazing how like they can like constantly come up with an entirely new idea every single time, and it's so distinguishable between them all.
Yeah, Miyazaki is a fountain of creativity by the sounds of it.
Oh yeah.
Isn't he retired?
I think he has now. Yeah.
Will there be any Ghibli films without him, or?
I don't think so. I think the most recent one was it has a ginger girl, and it takes place in the sky or something like that. I think I saw a trailer for it, but honestly, it didn't really look that appealing to me. Like I'm sad to say, but I think Studio Ghibli's films are sort of dropping in quality as like years progress. Like I think one of the most recent ones I think was called Arrietty, which was literally just The Borrowers. I mean, it's a better version of The Borrowers, but it's just still.
I really liked the original version of The Borrowers. I loved it.
Oh no, it's a good film, but like.
One of my favourites as a child.
Yeah, they've got the most recent one they've released is When Marnie Was There, which is a good few years ago now. They've still got ones that are in the works. They still have... I think what it was is Miyazaki has said he's retiring.
But he's still going to be indirectly involved in some way, I assume.
I think I get the impression that he's still involved, just not as much as he used to be. And I mean, to be fair, he's earned it. He's 79 now, yeah. So like,
to be fair, he doesn't look like a day over 60.
No,
like, he genuinely looks like the Japanese Colonel from KFC, and I mean that quite literally. He literally looks exactly like him. It's wild.
Yeah. There are a few people like that, like as well. The guy who made JoJo, he's like in his 60s and he looks about 30. Age
Some people are simply just blessed with the ability to not apparently age visibly. I think, yeah, Ghibli though, they run into that challenge because like he's literally one of the founders and has been so influential that like how they're gonna be able to sort of move along without such an important figure.
Most recent was The Wind Rises, and that actually got an Oscar for best animated feature.
Yeah, I think he announced he was retiring after that was finished.
Yeah, and obviously Spirited Away got an Oscar too for best animated feature in 2001.
Oh, definitely.
No, actually 2003.
Okay, but it did win, right?
Which one?
Spirited Away.
Spirited Away won the Academy Award. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I think it would be. Well, actually, I'll double check what else was that year, but certainly off the top of my head, I think it would be madness not to give it to it.
I mean, it was. I think Toy Story 2 was what 2000 and something around that time.
So this was for 2003.
Yes.
I'll double check it.
So Toy Story 2 is definitely my favourite Toy Story. I did not like Toy Story 3.
It's alright.
And I don't want to watch Toy Story 4 because it just looks pants.
Toy Story 4 is really. Toy Story 4 is of consistent quality with the previous 3 movies.
I just can't be bothered.
I was genuinely shocked because by all rights, it shouldn't. It should not be possible for a film franchise to keep being good with 4 installments with such spans of time between them. Yet somehow they managed it.
Yeah.
They're all great movies. Alright, 2003. Yeah, Spirited Away won. It was up against Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, which was a DreamWorks movie that I think has been promptly forgotten. Treasure Planet,
which I heard is good, but
it's good. It's good.
Treasure Planet was good, I believe, but didn't do well financially.
It's quite original.
Lilo and Stitch, which to be fair is pretty good.
That's pretty tough competition, to be fair.
Oh, and the toughest competition. Sorry, the toughest competition of all in the form of Ice Age.
Oh boy!
Featuring my man Ray Romano.
Yeah, it's.
And of course, the coveted Ice Age baby.
Oh no! See, I hated that when it first came out. Like, I remember watching it in primary school and being like, I hate this baby. Like, it's so ugly. I just want to strangle it.
That was at the point where 3D animation was not yet advanced enough for like children and babies not to look terrifying.
Oh, definitely.
And its head, it looks like a hammerhead shark. Like, it's so wide. Ugh.
It's just not quite right, is it? The proportions are just off enough to make it weird.
I don't know if I'd even call it Uncanny Valley because it's not even good enough to be in that, if you get me.
It's definitely uncanny.
Yeah, but I don't think it falls properly into the valley because it's got to be at least a bit more human looking for it to be properly, because it doesn't look like a human. It looks like some sort of weird warp creature from Demon Hell.
It does. It never fails to astound me how much people hate Ice Age Baby. Like,
I hate it. I hate it.
Real intense reaction to that thing.
Anyway, folks, bending off the topic of Ice Age Baby, should we do final thoughts on Spirited Away?
Okay, final thoughts.
Awesome.
I don't think I have anything to add.
Do you want me to go first?
Do you want to rank it first, Aidan?
Yeah, it's your movie.
Okay. In my opinion, this is the second best Studio Ghibli film. I mean, in my opinion, the first is Howl's Moving Castle, but that's interchangeable between persons. I mean, Michael's favorite film was My Neighbor Totoro. I'd personally rank Totoro lower, but to each their own. You don't get animation better than this with Studio Ghibli. Music's awesome, story's pretty easy to follow but complex at the same time. I can't really think of much it does wrong, and I'm gonna give this one a 9.5 out of 10.
Great minds think alike, because I was also thinking 9.5.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, because it's pretty much for the same reason, because I love this film, but I love Howl's Moving Castle more, and I just think Howl's Moving Castle's better, and I'd give that a 10, and I can't give both of them a 10, because I know that I enjoy one more than the other. if that makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, Michael? How are you feeling on Spirited Away?
I actually finished watching it shortly before we started recording.
Oh, yeah.
So it has still been fresh in my mind, and it's magnificent.
Yeah.
Like, it is funny, and it is endearing, and it is charming, and it is visually and musically beautiful with the characters and the writing and the detail and the technical brilliance of its animation. It is like, and I felt this about pretty much every Ghibli film I've watched. It's the most emotional I've got over a movie in a while, frankly, more so than I would expect.
It's wild.
I genuinely cannot properly compare it to most other things, and because of that, I have to give it a 10.
Wow.
Oh wow.
I like 10, but a 10, yeah, it's that good.
So wow, that's 2 9.5s and a 10.
I think this might be the highest rated thing we've had so far.
I tell you what, we really
watch Spirited Away, guys.
Just if you have got to this point in this video and not watched it, what is wrong with you?
Seriously, guys, go out
pause
and
it
watch
now.
it.
Do it.
Thank you for listening and putting up with us. Go and watch Spirited Away if you have not already.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. It's a masterpiece. It's absolutely a masterpiece.
I tell you what, I'm really glad that we've hit a streak of great movies these past couple episodes. There hasn't been one I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last one that kind of like iffy was Border and Ida, I think, and
yeah,
I mean, they were
those
good
are
movies,
two remarkable.
but not the most.
But anyway, that's
yeah.
That's it for today, I think, isn't it?
Like, comment, subscribe, put the bell notification, whatever on, all that stuff. So that's
but guys,
goodbye
honestly,
from me, Joseph.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's no problem. It's been
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll have to get you back sometime.
Oh, I'd love to come back. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, I think we are done here. So, yeah, I can't think of an outro to sign off. So, goodbye, everybody, from all of us.
Goodbye from me.
And we'll see you next week.
Yep,
see you
next week. Bye.